Welcome to Eureka Street Crypto. This is my anti-professional crypto channel. I'm just a barely sane dude who fell down the cryptocurrency rabbit hole. This channel is my fumbling attempt to communicate myself outside my own head about my journey in the crypto space. It is basically my brain dump. None of this is actual financial advice. Good morning, everybody. I'm Eureka John, and you're at Eureka Street Crypto, broadcasting from Leander, Texas. It is 6:48 in the morning on October 9th, 2022. This is episode 490 if you're watching on YouTube or any video device. If you're on Spotify or Apple or anything like that, Google Play, podcasting, audio platforms, I think it's like episode 162, 163, something like that. I don't know. I don't know why they're just, I started doing the audio podcast later, and so I started counting those later. So that's the only reason why. And once I got started, I just never synced them back up. So anyway, this is my morning crypto show. I used to do it every single morning, not so much anymore. Its purpose was to kind of get me involved in the crypto world and the Web3 space, and to experiment and to try new things and meet new people in this space. And it has done that. And I've gotten involved in DAOs and Bankless DAO, Journo DAO, Crypto Sapiens podcast and other types of projects. And, I've gotten so busy with that stuff, and I'm doing tons of amazing stuff with those DAOs and those projects that I no longer have as much time to do this show. Mission accomplished, right? But I still enjoy at times flipping on the switch every couple weeks or every week or so, and talking about some new and updated things going on in the crypto space, other things that I find. I always say this is my message in the bottle to reach out to other people in the Web3 space. This is my sandbox to experiment with different audio-visual techniques. And this is my brain dump to just dump out a lot of stuff that I bookmark and that I come across in my feeds. So, and in my research on the space. So yeah. Anyway, so let's go over here to the old CoinGecko and see what's going on. All right, so CoinGecko is one of those price aggregators. It comes all the price feeds from all the exchanges. CoinGecko is one of those places that uses Chainlink to aggregate it, and Chainlink is what's called an oracle. And a lot of I recently went to Los Angeles and for the ONA Online News Association conference, and I went there with Journo DAO to talk about Web3 and to help journalists understand how Web3 and the Web3 tools can be used in journalism for decentralization of journalism, for anti-censorship, for the journalists to be able to connect directly with their audience instead of through a lot of these platforms that can censor or can overcharge or things like that. So it gives more control for the journalists and maybe more of a sense of reliability for the people, for the consumer, the consumer of the media. So I hate to use the word consumers. It's like a long time ago. I started off in business school. And people were just constantly referred to as consumers and not people. And it just kind of started getting to me. And, I ended up going to seminary after that. So I don't know. I guess that's where my mind was at the time. It just really grated me every time that they talked about the consumer. I was like, that consumer is a person, And I don't know. Anyway, so Bitcoin's at 19,528,002 cents. And Ethereum's at 1,326.51. Looks like over the past 24 hours, most of the stuff has been pretty green. Whatever, it doesn't mean anything nowadays. Like I said, I don't even really look at price that much. There's a lot of chaos going on, and so I'm not trying to predict anything. I barely even look at price anymore at all. But it's just good to kind of just flip over to CoinGecko sometimes and just take a look and see where everything is at. We have, of course, the stable coins, Tether and USDC in 3 and 4th place. Binance, $278.87. I'm surprised it's not down more after its hack. Binance had a huge hack over this past week. So let's see. Binance hack. Okay, we have tons of results on the Binance hack here. You know, most of them say Binance hit by $570 million hack. We got TechCrunch here saying Binance hit by $100 million bridge hack. So which one is it? I mean, I'm sure it's probably 570. Oh, okay. So, all right. So we'll just go to Reuters. And Reuters says Binance linked blockchain hit by 570 million crypto hack. So, okay, a blockchain linked to Binance, the world's largest crypto exchange, has been hit by a $570 million hack. Hacks have been getting more and more in number. You know, it's 600 million, 500 million. You know, like I can't remember what the wormhole hack was, but it was huge. You know, these hacks are getting to be more and more millions of dollars than they used to be, it seems. I don't know. Maybe it's just me, but I'll have to look that up and just kind of maybe create a graph of how much each hack has taken out of people's wallets in the past over the past years, and see if that graph happens to increase. Anyway, this is the latest in a series of hacks to hit the crypto sector this year. Yeah, we've seen tons of hacks. Yeah, that's what's interesting about the crypto space. You know, if you don't invest too much money in it and put all your money in one place, it can be a really fun, interesting place to be. It's kind of like, you know, playing a racing game and dodging cars. You're just kind of going through, seeing how fast you can go and dodging the hacks and all types of stuff. You know, I've managed to barely get away from a couple hacks and happened to like move my stuff out just in time. Celsius was one of those. You know, I happened to just move everything off of Celsius just before it crashed, and I don't know why. I just had this gut feeling. Alex Mashinsky was kind of acting all squirrely, and he was lashing out at the BlockFi CEO and just acting how a CEO should not act. And I just kind of had a bad feeling about it, and I just pulled everything out of Celsius, and I'm glad I did. Anyway. Binance CEO Changpeng Zhao said in a tweet that tokens were stolen from a blockchain bridge used in the BNB chain, known until February as Binance Smart Chain. And Binance Smart Chain was supposedly Binance's attempt at creating like a decentralized chain, you know, that didn't go through their centralized exchange. Yeah. Anyway, blockchain, but it was owned by Binance, so. Yeah, not decentralized. Blockchain bridges are tools used to transfer cryptocurrencies between different applications. Criminals have increasingly targeted them, with some $2 billion stolen in 13 different hacks, mostly this year. Yeah, bridges are tools used to bridge cryptocurrencies from one chain to another. Say you want to move some tokens from Cosmos to Ethereum, and you need a bridge to do that. From Solana to Ethereum, you need a bridge to that. The wormhole bridge was one, and that was a huge hack. And in between these bridges, there's a use of oracles, and oracles are like Chainlink and things that funnel from blockchain to blockchain, or from outside of the blockchain to the blockchain. They're intermediaries, and a lot of times those oracles are traditionally can be pretty easy to exploit for hackers. So I'm not sure if that's the case here, but could be. I say so. The hackers stole around $100 million worth of crypto. All right, so was it $570 million or $100 million? So BNB said later, BNB chain said later in a blog post, a total of 2 million of the BNB cryptocurrency worth around $500 million was withdrawn by the hacker. Interesting. So the majority of the BNB remained in the hacker's digital wallet address, while about $100 million worth was unrecovered. Okay, I see. All right. So they took about 2 million of the BNB cryptocurrency worth about 570 million, and the majority remained in the hacker's wallet address, while about $100 million worth was unrecovered. So they stole $570 million, which makes for a better headline, except for TechCrunch did not sensationalize that, which, good on them, because every single other one has said $570 million worth of crypto was stolen, No, $100 million worth was actually unrecovered. Yes, $570 million was stolen, but the rest was recovered, I guess. So BNB chain supports BNB, formerly known as Binance Coin, which is the world's which is the world's fifth largest token with a market value of over $45 billion. Yeah, and Binance is big, and I've never really used Binance that much at all. Because first of all, there's Binance US, but I can't use it in Texas. I can't even use Binance US in Texas. And yes, I've tried a VPN, and I go to set up an account and I can't get through KYC. And so Binance has really always been kind of irrelevant for me, but I know a lot of the world uses Binance, and especially over in Asia. But, if you go to Binance Smart Chain and you see a lot of the projects that are on there, it's just absolute scammy crap. And man, the longer I'm in the crypto space, the more I try to stay away from the scammy crap. There's a lot of regulators cracking down hard on crypto. And, the U.S. government says it wants to crack down on crypto. I know Joe Biden wants to crack down on crypto, but they want to bring in this central bank digital currency at the same time with CBDC, which is a centralized. So if you have decentralization, you're going to have chaos. It's the bazaar and the cathedral. And there's a book. I think I'll have to look that up. Hold on. Okay, here's the cathedral and the bazaar, not the bazaar and the cathedral. But I've never read this book or this paper or whatever. I need to read it, actually. So I will probably order it here. I've heard this paper, this book, used enough in illustrations and podcasts for people talking about different ways of doing things. All right, and so in decentralized web space, you're going to have tons of scammy crap. You're going to have tons of things to navigate through. You're trying to find the diamonds in the rough, things like that, and that's what happens whenever you allow for free range decentralization and for innovation to happen. You have to be smart. A lot of the learning process and the learning curve is placed on you. The responsibility is placed on you, the user, the experimenter, the person who wants to learn. But there's a lot of danger, so you get things like hex, like direct marketing to your grandma or on the side of a city bus and stuff like that, and promising exponential returns. Most people end up just like losing their money. Then you have regulatory agencies wanting to come in there and straighten it up and to create something safe for everybody. And, but what that happens, it creates like a cathedral and a bazaar. So here, we'll look at this here. The Cathedral and Bazaar, Musings on Linux and Open Source by an Accidental Revolutionary. It's an essay and later a book by Eric S. Raymond on software engineering methods based on his observation of the Linux kernel development process and his experiences managing an open source project, Fetchmail. It examines the struggle between the top-down and the bottom-up design. The essay was first presented by the author at the Linux Congress in May 27, 1997 in Würzburg, Germany, and was published as the second chapter of the same book titled 1999. Okay, anyway, so the essay contrasts two different free software development models. The Cathedral model, in which the source code is available with each software release, but the code developed between releases is restricted to an exclusive group of software developers. GNU, Emacs, and GCC were presented as examples. The Bazaar model, in which the code is developed over the internet in view of the public, Raymond credits Linus Torvalds, leader of the Linux kernel project, as the inventor of this process. Raymond also provides anecdotal accounts of his own implementation of this model for the Fetchmail project. The essay's central thesis is Raymond's proposition that given enough eyeballs, all bugs are shallow, which he terms Linus's law, and more widely available. The source code is for public testing, scrutiny, and experimentation. The more rapidly all forms of bugs will be discovered. In contrast, Raymond claims that an inordinate amount of time and energy must be spent hunting for bugs in the Cathedral model, since the working version of the code is available to only a few developers. So yeah, many hands make light work. That's the kind of thesis of the Bazaar model. That's kind of what has been going on in the crypto space. And the more decentralized you are, there's a lot of people looking at your work, but then there can also be just a lot of problems, for somebody walking into a bazaar. If you're naive, or if you're rich, there's a lot of pickpockets and thieves in there, you know. But you know, in the cathedral, to use the analogy further, you know, if you go in there and you're not perfect, or if you're not qualified, then you could be gate kept. You know, you could be locked out of certain opportunities, certain positions, certain places within the cathedral. I remember going into a cathedral in Germany when I was 19 years old. I went over there with a school class, or 18 years old. There were all these Baroque cathedrals, and there was the place where the commoners sat. And then you had all these, I don't know what they are, these gates, these golden gates, you know, that looked like gold leaves and everything, that separated the clergy away from the commoners. And so the commoners, where you were seated, you could not even really see what was going on. And on top of that, the priests and the clergy, they weren't even speaking colloquial German. They were speaking Latin, so nobody could understand them anyway, and nobody could read. You know, the only way that the commoners would understand what was going on was be able to look at the pictures in the stained glass windows on the sides of the cathedral, or the churches. So there's a lot of gatekeeping going on, and centralization of the knowledge in the cathedral model. And so that centralization is really what regulators are trying to do. So let's bring this back to CBDC. Right now we have all these cryptocurrencies trying to redefine what money is. And you know, we are in this place trying to experiment with money. We're experimenting with society through DAOs. An interesting thing about DAOs and smart contracts is that you can have the treasury being run by smart contracts by a community of people. So the hierarchy of an organization or a community is flattened. But DAOs allow people to experiment with different types of societies, different ways of running governments and all that stuff without looting or killing or oppressing people. That has happened in the past when there's been societal experimentation. So the Bazaar model allows for this type of stuff to happen, and decentralization keeps that power in the hands of the people. The cathedral model and the CBDC model takes that and centralizes it all. And so there might be digital money and there might be digital currency, but who's ever in charge of that digital money and digital currency will be able to turn on and off that switch at will. I found an interesting clip on Twitter, as I usually do. And the more and more I follow this stuff, the more I see the World Economic Forum's name popping up, and the more I see that the World Economic Forum is the entity that is wanting to try to control all this centralization of the central bank digital currency, and to try to make all the governments implement this into their own countries. You know, it seems like every year they're just gathering together, trying to figure out the best ways to slice up the pie and to centralize everything and to cut out any type of control that individuals may have. And they're just basically trying to break up the bazaar, you know, that is going on. You know, and I know the bazaar is not perfect, but I lean towards the bazaar model, as if you don't know. But anyway, here, listen to this, and you'll kind of gather what I'm talking about.
And it's not about the U.S. versus China. It's about what underpins a world order is always the financial system. I was very privileged. My father was an advisor to Nixon when they came off the gold standard in '71. And so I was brought up with a kind of inside view of how very important the financial structure is to absolutely everything else. And what we're seeing in the world today, I think, is we are on the brink of a dramatic change where we are about to, and I'll say this boldly, we're about to abandon the traditional system of money and accounting and introduce a new one. And the new one, the new accounting, is what we call blockchain. It means digital. It means having a almost perfect record of every single transaction that happens in the economy, which will give us far greater clarity over what's going on. It also raises huge dangers in terms of the balance of power between states and citizens. In my opinion, we're going to need a digital constitution of human rights if we're going to have digital money. But also, this new money will be sovereign in nature. Most people think that digital money is crypto and private, but what I see are superpowers introducing digital currency. The Chinese were the first. The U.S. is on the brink, I think, of moving in the same direction. The Europeans have committed to that as well.
Okay, so that was at the World Government Summit in 2022, this year. And yeah, you know, that they're going to have countries bring in sovereign digital currencies, which are CBDCs, which create the social credit system. And yeah, you know, I mean, they're not. It's not even a conspiracy theory. You know, you try to describe this stuff to just your neighbor, your normal average person, and they just don't believe it, you know, or they're like, there's nothing we can do about it anyway, you know. And she did say there's a great danger in this between, you know, the states and the people, you know, and there has to be some kind of you know, digital human rights that needs to be established before implementing this stuff. Well, China already implemented it, and you see what's happened over there. And the U.S. is on the brink, and there's no sign of any sort of digital constitution of human rights going on whatsoever. They're just rolling it out, you know. So yeah, I don't think that the digital constitution of human rights is on anybody's mind that's creating this stuff. So let's also go over here and take a look at something else that I saw. Anyway, so did anybody ever vote for these people in the World Economic Forum? And, you know, how are these people able to dictate all these countries' political leaders all around the world? I mean, it just, you know, it blows my mind. And so here's another tweet here. It says Rahul Chabra. I don't know who that is, but he says, this still blows my mind. And here we have the PayPal Mafia. I suppose all these people here have come out of PayPal at some point, including Elon Musk here. But all these people here work for all these companies. And a lot of these companies engage in some really heavy censorship. So here's below Tim Kennedy. I don't know who that is either, but saying, close your PayPal account. The new policy allows them to deduct $2,500 from your account for misinformation. What? So they are allowed to deduct $2,500 from your account for misinformation. Now, that has to be a mistake. So I had to look it up. Yeah, because that's just like, you know, that's total social credit system right there. I mean, it's insane. So I looked it up, and I did find that it was indeed, it was published on the PayPal terms and services, you know, so terms and conditions or whatever. It was published erroneously, they claim, right? So PayPal, okay, so let's look at this little thing that I found on Slashdot. Okay, PayPal has backtracked on a published policy that would have fined users $2,500 for spreading, quotes, misinformation, claiming the update had gone out, quote, in error. An acceptable use policy notice recently went out in error that included incorrect information. PayPal is not fining people for misinformation, and this language was never intended to be inserted into our policy. Our teams are working to correct our policy pages. We're sorry for the confusion this has caused, a spokesperson told National Review in a written statement. So I don't think, I mean, how could that just happen to have slipped in there? They don't have anybody review this stuff. I mean, I've seen how a lot of corporations work. You know, have you ever seen, I can't remember what movie it was. Maybe it was American Psycho or something. I don't know, where they were sitting around arguing about whether a font should be a color of cornflower blue or not, and they had an entire board discussing about that every single day. I don't know, but I mean, stuff like that happens in corporations where you'll just have, you know, people bike shedding everything and Basically, that's just arguing and debating about some minor trivial detail when they're not focusing on the major mechanics of some core processes. That's called bike shedding, and it just stalls up things and decisions and costs tons of money. And I'm sure big corporations like Apple, have tons of bike shedding, and whenever they're coming out with new projects and features on their phones, just debating about just minor details that really don't matter, that don't affect the usage and the UI of the product. So, terms and conditions, I'm sure that the lawyers spent tons of time deliberating about this stuff, or maybe it didn't. Maybe it really did slip through the cracks and nobody really cared, but I just don't see it because a lot of times people's jobs and their sense of importance in these companies depend on these minor details. So how could this have slipped through to have been published? Anyway, the policy update had appeared to authorize the company to pull a significant sum of money from the accounts of users who spread, quote, misinformation, among other newly listed offenses. Changes included prohibitions on the sending, posting, or publication of any messages, content, or materials that promote misinformation. So how can you send this type of information on PayPal? Maybe that's within the PayPal messengers, because it's not like social media. So if you post something on Facebook, would PayPal be able to deduct from your account on that? Like back in that tweet, it showed the PayPal Mafia all tied together. Like if you post something on Facebook or YouTube, and would PayPal get wind of that? I don't know. So while the policy already forbade hate, intolerance, and discrimination, the new one would have explicitly applied to specific, quote, protected groups and individuals or groups based on protected characteristics. The firm's current rulebook doesn't list these terms. It's unclear whether PayPal will also pull back these specific prohibitions on discriminatory language if it's only scrubbing the misinformation clause. So scrubbing is kind of doing it after the fact. So let's go over here. On Yahoo Finance yesterday, they published PayPal has backtracked on a published policy that would have fined users $2,500 for spreading, quote, misinformation, claiming the update had gone out, quote, in error. An AUP notice recently went out in error that included incorrect information. PayPal is not fining people for misinformation, and this language was never intended to be inserted into our policy. Our teams are working to correct our policy pages. We're sorry for the confusion this has caused. The course reversal comes after policy changes had started to attract media scrutiny as well as criticism on Twitter. Former PayPal president David Marcus even blasted the company over the implications that it could seize customers' money for finding their views objectionable. It's hard for me to openly criticize a company that I used to love and gave so much to, but PayPal's new AUP goes against everything I believe in, the cryptocurrency entrepreneur said Saturday. A private company now gets to decide to take your money if you say something they disagree with. It's insanity. So if that was just completely a mistake and not something that PayPal has become about, then this guy wouldn't have even probably said much about it. He said, "Oh, it was a mistake." But no, he's outwardly saying it goes against everything he believed in, and that the company that he used to love and gave so much to is now becoming this like monster, basically. So Elon Musk, he also agreed in a comment that got thousands of likes. So these people are publishing this and putting it up on their feeds. The policy update had appeared to authorize the company to pull a significant sum of money from the accounts of users who spread misinformation, among other newly listed offenses. So maybe they were testing to see what the reaction would be. I know that happens. They put it out there and then just kind of see what the public will do, or get people to pre-program people, get people used to the idea. So I don't know. The new conditions were scheduled to be added to the restricted activity section of the PayPal user agreement effective November 3rd, the Daily Wire first reported. Changes include prohibitions on the sending, posting, or publication of any messages, content, or materials that promote misinformation, while the prior policy already forbade hate, intolerance, and discrimination. Okay, so anyway, that's a centralized platform, and it's a centralized financial platform making those decisions. And that's what in the Journo DAO I was trying to help journalists understand Web3 tools that can prevent this type of censorship. I mean, it's one thing just to censor, things, I get, wanting to censor misinformation, hate, intolerance, and stuff like that. But things like that out there exist, and just because somebody might have a terrible, terrible opinion doesn't mean you need to bolt their mouth shut. They either need to be ignored or fought against with however you see fit. Maybe kindness, love, gentleness, maybe with facts going against what they're saying. But you can't just shut people up. And on top of that, you can't have a media platform connected to somebody's wallet to be able to take away their money just because they say something you don't like. And PayPal may not be directly connected to YouTube, to Facebook, to LinkedIn and stuff like that, but the network is there, as you saw from that previous graph. Right here, they all know each other. It's a big club, and you ain't in it, to quote George Carlin, you know? So anyway, so yeah, you know, I digress. I also wanted to go back to the whole Celsius thing that I had mentioned earlier. I found on my LinkedIn feed some posting about Celsius publishing a list of everybody that has used Celsius. There's another information dump from a centralized entity. So if you use Celsius, like I have in the past, you know, I put up some of my crypto as collateral and borrowed money in order to have a nice big down payment on my car, and then I paid back that down payment to Celsius, and I got my collateral back. And I did all that, you know, whenever Celsius was doing good, before all this stuff happened. And I'd mentioned that you know, Alex Mashinsky, the CEO of Celsius, started acting like very arrogant and pompous and weird to me, and in some ways that I didn't necessarily like. So I pulled all my money out of Celsius, and then just like a couple weeks later, it just crashes. So anyway, so update everyone who used Celsius, the centralized crypto lending exchange. Their personal information and some addresses, lots of addresses, were redacted but not difficult for bad actors to do searches online, are now public on court records. Oh, all right. If you use centralized exchanges and it asks for KYC, which means know your customer, that's the process you have to go through when you set up your account on centralized exchanges. And all centralized exchanges do this, including Binance, Celsius, and BlockFi, Coinbase, Kraken, Gemini, you know, crypto.com, they all do this, you know. So, and it includes your address, social security number, ID card, phone number, you know, and your name and everything. And hackers will have a field day with this. So I suggest and so Bettina says, I suggest anyone who use Celsius to change your phone number as soon as possible, including bank number, because they've included wire numbers. I see the court record and it's not great. And no, I will not share the link to the court case documents. Anyway, so Celsius, and here's a quote. Celsius published a 14,000-page document detailing every user's name, link to timestamps, and amount of each deposit, withdrawal, liquidation. This horrific breach of privacy will lead to many robbed and killed, and anything not provably cryptographically private will become published. Wow, that's 0x Fubar posted that on Twitter, and there's a link to some of the names and all the information of the withdrawals. That is crazy, man. That's absolutely crazy. They doxed all the users from the US, EU, Asia. I think the court did this to make an example. If someone say that's not why the court's docked, I asked them, where can we find the Ghislaine Maxwell's client list and court records, who she trafficked girls to around the globe? Yeah, because the redacted names did not include the client list in the records because it's very powerful individuals with money. Interesting point of view there, Debbie Levitt, MBA. So anyway, so yeah, I guess my information's out there, you know, so I mean, I'm already pretty undoxed anyway as it is. But it just goes to show, you know, this is what happens when you centralize things, you know. And this is why I'm 100% for Web3 and decentralization. You know, I am on the side of the bazaar, not the cathedral. Anyway, yeah, there really was no point to this episode except for me just saying, you know, I love what Web3 is doing. I love how Web3 is empowering people to take control of their own data and their own information. But we are fighting centralization and centralized power and a social credit system and people that want to have ultimate control over us, to take away our personal autonomy through cash, you know? And people say, well, you know, if you're just using your ATM card, it's like digital money. No, it's not digital cash. Bitcoin is peer-to-peer transaction, and other cryptocurrencies that are decentralized. And I know that there's a lot of problems, a lot of cryptocurrencies out there, and some are more decentralized than others, but they're all trying to attain the goal of decentralization for the most part, and that's or follow some kind of guideline of decentralization and to empower the person using it, and not to be a centralized bank digital currency, a CBDC. And to not be a part of the social credit system. Whenever you use your ATM card, do you realize how many entities that has to go through? That Visa and MasterCard are just messaging systems, and that when you swipe your card to get that that bag of donuts, it goes through from you to the payment system, and to the register, to the credit card messaging service, to the bank. And then from the bank, that can go to several other banks, and who knows, man, but by the time it gets back to you to approve that transaction, it takes time for all that to actually settle between all the banks. And at any point inside there, that can be censored and that can be stopped. And you already see sometimes if you travel somewhere and you're trying to pump gas in a place like, say, New Mexico, for instance, and you're stuck at the pump sitting there trying to get on the phone with some customer service person, with your bank, to be able to say, yes, it's okay, I'm traveling, and you have to get their permission to travel somewhere and use your own money. Or you get zapped with some kind of NSF fee, and then it's over the weekend, and then there's like 5 transactions under that NSF fee from things popping through, and then by come Monday roll around, you suddenly have like $135 worth of NSF fees, and you have to call and beg to the customer service person to not charge you all those NSF fees, insufficient funds, and it's just like they are in complete control. And they can censor and stop you. And then whatever side of the Canadian trucker issue you're on, PayPal and GoFundMe had the power to shut down those people trying to send money to people, to be able to allow them some kind of voice, but regardless of whether or not you disagree with that stance, those banks had the control, and the government had the control to shut down access for those people to their own money. And do you want that? Is that the kind of future you want, to live in some kind of social credit system? And the way that government and financial policies are wavering back and forth all along the compass nowadays, you could be saying something today and then the next day it's forbidden, So I don't know. So yeah, I'm all about decentralization and Web3 and autonomy and sovereignty for the personal individual. So anyway, today's Sunday. Go outside. Don't sit around and think about this stuff all day. Enjoy your family. Get some vitamin D from the sun rays. Get some exercise. Get away from the computer screen. Get away from social media. Get away from Twitter. Yeah, I didn't even curate my Twitter feed, and it's just constant, just like chaos and just like negativity, and I'm like, dude. And then I go outside and everybody's fine. I talk to my neighbors face to face. They're just fine. What gives? You can tell the people that sit around on social media or watch the mainstream news too much out there. They're skittering about. They're fearful, So I don't know what else to say. Enjoy your day. All right. I'll talk to you guys next time. I have a lot of different things. I'd like to talk and go into details about oracles. There's a lot of innovation in oracles and a lot of importance in oracles, especially for decentralized media and how the information that is getting to the blockchain gets there. And I'd like to explain that process. All right. I will talk to you all later. Thank you for making it to the end of this program. If you actually like this content, give a thumbs up. And if you want to hear more, just hit the subscribe button. I'm available on YouTube, Odyssey, and BitChute, and on all the major podcasting platforms in audio version. Spotify specifically. If you would like to follow and leave a review, that would help a lot. I am also available on Twitter at EurekaJohn1. That's EUREKA John, JOHN, and the number 1.
My DMs are always open. Feel free to shoot me a message. Thanks again.